Welcome back to FlatsClass University. Here today we're going to do a little breakdown on how to fish docks. That's right. Now, I'm not going to tell you the when and the where and what docks to fish, but I am going to teach you exactly how a 30-year pro breaks down fishing a dock. And again, I've done my best illustration here that I can to show all of this to you. So here we have a dock. This would be a typical dock that you would see anywhere from Galveston to Mobile, Alabama, in the panhandle of Florida, Tampa Bay, where I grew up and fished docks for many, many years. It was one of the best patterns that I had. Sarasota, Miami, you name it. St. Augustine. This is a typical dock setup here. Now, let me explain the elements first, and then I'm going to teach you exactly what you should be looking for. All right. Now, when I'm fishing docks with artificials, there's a few, I'm going to say, parts of the dock that I'm going to want to pay special attention to because I'm not using natural bait. And then it's the whole approach to the dock and where the target zones are going to be. First thing you need to know is looking at docks in general, you want to find docks that provide 1, plenty of shade. 2, docks that have a secondary point of interest. They're not too simple. There's a lot of what I would call pedestrian type docks that really have no interesting points or secondary points of cover. This particular dock would be a sweet dock, a juicy dock, a dock that I would want to fish. And here's why. Here's my seawall edge down here at the bottom of the whiteboard. Here's my walkway out to the dock, and I didn't bother drawing the poles that are underneath this one, the walkway itself. Here's the dock itself, which is basically a rectangle with a boat slip cut out of the rectangle on the left-hand side. I've got a little mangrove that's grown up here in the corner between the seawall and the dock itself. And this little purple denoted zone right in here, that's an oyster bar that's tucked up underneath here. So when I say secondary point of cover, something that would give it a little bit more than a typical dock, it would be like this mangrove and oyster bar. That's definitely going to be a bait attractor, a crab attractor, a minnow attractor. And it's also going to bring predators into this zone. Now here I've drawn the current so that you know the current's flowing through this way. And I'm typically fishing docks during periods of not heavy flow, but flow where I can make presentations and I feel like I've got a really good chance of ticking along the bottom pretty easily. Or if it's a colder, cooler month, I may attack the docks in a different way because I'd have lower tide levels, because this is a top view. I put a boat in here, and then I put a little note here. Typically, when you have a boat in a slip, from it powering in and out, there's a washout trough that sits around the back end of this boat that creates a depression. Think of it as a pothole in the sand or the mud. So I denoted that there. So you've got mangrove, you've got an oyster bar, you've got the washout behind the boat. You've got a dock that's going to provide plenty of shade, especially right here in what I would call the heart of the dock, where it's going to be the coolest center, which will be more important in the summer than any other time. And then I also denoted here 2 foot up here close to where the walkway meets the seawall, probably 3.5 feet or so right here in this first line of poles in depth. And then as you work your way across the dock to the outside of the dock, maybe there's 6-7 feet of water out here. So when I'm looking for a set of docks to work, there's a few things that I'm looking for, and this would definitely meet the criteria of most of them. Now, if you wanted to learn how I fish the docks, because I fish the docks quite differently in the winter and the springtime than I do in the summer and the fall. I'm looking for different types of docks and different types of areas in both those periods. And I'm using different types of lures. But this is a homogenized version of what I like to do. So let's say this is my skiff, my kayak, whatever, and I'm moving in. Let me show you the points where I would make presentations first. The most important, because I do not want to hurt my chances and make a cast that might get me hung up or snagged, number one, and pretty much waste the whole dock. I take it in little bits and chunks. I chip at the dock. So I watch a lot, or the folks that I coach at FlatsClass University, many of them want to get right to the heart of the dock. They know that if there's an imaginary square right in here, this is the part of the dock they want to fish the most. It's the shadiest part of the dock, and at certain times of year, that is absolutely true. You would want to hit that part of the dock, but not before you want to do some of these. So as I move into here, the first zone that I'm going to attack is I'm going to want to make a cast somewhere up in here. It's probably going to be somewhere right in here where it's just barely under that underhang, and then work the bait past this piling right there. So the first cast, boom, right there. That's where I want to throw. My second cast would probably be on the inside of that piece of cover right in here. Okay, you see how I'm chipping at the dock? I'm not trying to get hung up. I'm making that easy cast, making that easy cast. Next cast, I probably pitch it, you know, in this situation here, because I'm in 6, 7 feet of water, maybe 8 feet of water, being a little further off here, I'm not worried about my trolling motor alerting fish in here. It's not just the game fish that you're alerting. You can't alert any of the bait fish either. If you've got a bunch of mullet around a dock and you start making them nervous, guess who else is nervous? Everybody else that lives there. It's like, hey, someone's in the neighborhood. I don't recognize them. So you've got to understand how you're gonna approach this. Second cast is gonna be probably up in here in the washout. Maybe it's here. And then as I progress down a little bit, then I'm gonna make a long cast down the face of this dock, and it's gonna be way out here, and it may be several casts, so I can work it down the face of the dock. So that would be 1, that would be 2, that would be 3, and then this cast would be number 4. You wanna make it long enough to give the lure time to fall and account for current, so that you can make a pass by that first pole, okay? So you're making that cast, and you've got to allow enough times for that to swing down, and then you can work it right down the face. Bounce it right down the face, and then you'll catch that pole one more time. At that point, 1, 2, 3, 4, you've covered this zone with 4 casts. I know a lot of anglers that after they've made 4 casts on a dock, they're winding that trolling motor up and they're motoring down to the next dock. That's not the way this works. Then what I would do is I would swing my skiff. I'd be a little further away. It's hard to do that on this whiteboard. I'd get a little further away so I could make another cast in here, here. So we're gonna say this would be 5, 6. Then I'm gonna wanna cast right here, chip away again. It's gonna be 7. All right, so you see what I'm doing here. These inside edges, now I'm into pretty shallow water here. Now I wanna make a long cast to this point here and hit the whole face here. I just put 2 pilings here. There could be 3 pilings here, 4 pilings here, and then I'd work it down this face. So that would be my 8th cast. And then my 9th cast is going to be this corner here. Where this shade line and oyster bar is, I'm obviously gonna make a cast here for 9. And then if I can visibly see a fish here, maybe I can, maybe I can't, maybe I would cast here for 10. But these would be the first 9 casts just in this section of the dock. Now, unless there's a shade line that's sitting off this dock, if the sun were over here and it had a roof over it and there was a shade line out here, once I can make eye contact with the lure and I see no one's following it, I speedily reel it in to make another cast. So that's where the first 9, and if you made a poor cast, maybe 10 casts might be. Then I'll work slowly with my trolling motor, and I'll start working up. And when I get up into these zones, then I will make a few short casts to these posts in here, being sure that I can work down the face of them. Many of you don't want to throw to those outside poles. You're like, nothing's there, it's in the sun, it's in the sun. Certain times of the year, that sun's not going to matter, for one. 2, the shade thing is a bigger deal, A, in the summertime, B, if it's a fish like a snook that uses shade as an ambush point. Redfish, they're just going to be down there on the bottom. They're going to have enough depth in 6 feet of water where they don't care. There's also going to be opportunities for flounder in here, things like that. I'll tell you a little trick, and usually I only share this with the students at FlatsClass University. But there are going to be species at this dock that are going to clue you in whether the dock is fishy or not. Is it a fishy dock? Do you see sheep's head? You see sheep's head, that's a really good sign, especially that there could be redfish there could be flounder there, there could be black drum there, because those fish are going to pick away at the barnacle growth on these pilings and let you know that that stuff is falling, which attracts smaller fish, it attracts crabs. That's going to be a good dock for that type of species. If you see mangrove snapper, needlefish, or larger mullet under a dock like this, you're like, oh wow, I see a lot of needlefish. Ooh, I see a lot of mullet. Oh, mangrove snappers are chasing my jig out. Well, those are all minnow eaters. They eat other small bait fish, which means there's a good shot that there's a snook in here somewhere too. So you got to pay attention to their neighbors to know what potential the dock has. So in here, I'm going to throw to these 2 posts first, which let's just say arbitrarily, this is my 10th and 11th cast. Then, and then only, will I make the skip to the deeper parts of the dock and try to get in here. This is what I call the heart of the dock, where I'm making skips in here. This is where you have the greatest opportunity, well, to screw up, where you could get hung up. So if you made this in the first, this is my 12th cast, this is my 13th cast, subjectively saying, if you made these like your 2nd or 3rd cast and you got hung up, well, you're done. At this point, I've already had a lot of opportunity to catch a fish in here. So I can't be that disappointed if you get hung up. And you will get hung up if you're doing this the right way. It helps to be a really accurate caster. There's no doubt about it, it's going to take some practice. But I can tell you right now, with a little bit of practice and a lot of confidence, you can catch a lot of fish around these docks. Now I'm going to show you where the next couple of casts are going to be. As I move up, I'm going to make a cast through the dock out here where I can work it past this dock. So that's probably going to be number 14. And then I'm probably going to make a deeper cast in here, somewhere in here, which is going to be like 15. And at that point, I'm going to feel like I have covered this dock pretty well with 15 casts. And then I'm going to move into this current and I'm going to set up and I'm going to look for the next most likely dock to catch fish. But this is the kind of stuff, and there's a few more things I'm going to tell you about. And there's a few more things I'm going to tell you about. In many cases, these docks will have, let's just say, a dock light out here. It'll be one of those downward dock lights. Now, it's hard to tell when they have the underwater lights if it's the daytime, but if they have a dock light that overhangs the water where it's a fish attractor, a lot of the fish that feed there in the evening time are still going to be there during the day. So that's always a clue that that's a good dock. Another good sign. Do you see a cleaning table at this dock? If you see a cleaning table, you know that this guy likes to fish with his family and he's cleaning fish when he comes home. He's throwing scraps in the water. That's going to draw shrimp and crabs and all kinds of little scavenger fish, which is going to bring predators to the dock. So cleaning tables and dock lights make this dock even better for most of us. breaking down these docks and understanding how to fish them can be very handy during holiday weekends, the beautiful days like on a Saturday when it's so nice and there's so many jet skis out there on the water and everybody is on your favorite flat. Well, you can fish these docks and do really well. There were many days in my 30-year career as a professional guide and as a professional tournament angler where my pattern was to work docks because a lot of those tournaments fell on weekends just like charters do. And I learned how to fish docks very effectively and under control. The whole reason you're going into that current is not only to present naturally, but you have a lot more control over your vessel or your kayak so that when you stab a fish and you're wrenching him out of there, you can take that trolling motor and back out here and then let the current carry you away and you'll have him out there in open water. So there's a lot of strategy and skill that goes into this so that you can understand how good a dock can be and what you can really, I'm gonna say, glean off docks like these. You'll get very good where you can skip up underneath these boats and really cover a dock, but I'm often asked at seminars and trade shows, I've been fishing docks in the area. I just don't have a lot of success. How many docks do you fish? There are days when I fish 70, 80 docks. That's nothing to me, in a day of fishing. You just get on that trolling motor and you roll. You make a commitment to it. But there is a skill to picking the right docks, where they're located, time of year, where they're oriented, how close to depth they are, what lures you're throwing on them, different types of the year, what the tackle you're really going to need, not only to accomplish the skip, but be able to pull those fish out from under this cover, this structure. So all those matter, and we teach all of that at FlatsClassUniversity.com. So if you want a deeper dive into information like this, join me over there. And I guarantee you, I will level up your game and make you a much better inshore angler. That's all I have for you today. See you right back here tomorrow.